Hello, everyone. Hola. Um, s- all right, starting next lesson 5.4 interpreting and analyzing data. This is the second last lesson for the chapter. Last lesson will be next week, and then we'll have an assignment next week. Okay, just give you a heads up. All right, going through these. Primary data sources. Okay, we have primary data versus secondary data. So primary data is data collected by researchers directly. Okay, so the primary data is when you actually go and collect information. So this usually happens during experiments. Okay, so we go experimental results. Okay, so you collect the data. You collect the data. Okay, then we have secondary data. This is when you collect data from somebody else. Okay, so this is when you're often doing assignments. You are going out and finding results from other people. So often the case when you grab information from the internet, when you grab information from the newspaper. Okay, it could be also from a book, a magazine, and so on. Okay, so if you do the actual experiment yourself, you collect the data. This is primary results, whereas secondary data is when you go and get information from somebody else or somewhere else. Okay, then we have types of data. Microdata versus aggregates. Okay, microdata is an individual set of data about a single respondent. Okay, so we're looking at a set of data based on one thing. Okay, so this could be, say, person in the class. This could be their test scores, a person's test scores. Okay, so say someone in our class is their single respondent, and all the test scores is the set of data. Okay, or you could have something like this. So we could look at one class. So that's the single respondent would be, say, one class, and I could look at test results. Okay, or I could look at, say, heights of individuals in the class. So it could be a single respondent, it could be a person, okay, or a single respondent could be like a class or one school. And then from there, you're looking at different results. Then we have aggregate data, and this is usually based on averages. Averages, or we call the mean. Okay, so in this case, say it was the average height. Average height. This could be the average test mark. Say a school's average mark for the students. So microdata, we're looking at the scores, a set of data, whereas this is just a summary, so averages. Okay, number 1, use the table to answer the questions. So we have a table over here. I believe there's one very similar to the textbook, if not the same. So what we have here is domestic fares for Canada and 10 major cities. So domestic fares mean domestic being Canadian, because we're looking at Canada. So domestic would be Canadian fares. So this is, we're looking at flights. Okay, so the flights of, the cost of flights in Canada. Okay, so Canada flights. So here we have 2008. We have all these for Canada is the average, and then we have all the individual cities in 2008, and then also the costs of the flights in 2009 for individual cities. Okay, first question, is this micro or aggregate? This is aggregate because it is an average. Okay, average, it actually says it in the title, so average. Okay, so it's aggregate, so average flights. Okay, and that's how I know, because it actually says it. Okay. Okay, is this primary or secondary? Justify your answer. Okay, so over here you'll see that it says CanSim. okay? Or Statistics Canada. So to Statistics Canada, anytime you see a table from Statistics Canada, that is primary data. They go out, Statistic Canada has stats on so many different things, a crazy amount of stats. And they go out and count and get all the information themselves. So the chart itself from Stats Canada is primary. But if I were to use this information in something like I am now, then this is secondary. Okay, so it's primary because Stats Canada goes out and collects all the information, but secondary if you use it. Okay, so if Stats Canada came up with a report, that would be primary. But if I use this information for something else, so in this case, my lesson, then I'm using this information and it's secondary data. Okay. Next, identify the independent and dependent variables. Okay, so the independent variables are the cities that we're looking at. So it's always the first column is your X, which is your independent, and then your dependent is your Y's, which would be the airfares or the flights, the cost of the flights. Okay, and D says, can you see any pattern in the data? If you look at them here, so we go from 197 to 170, 194, 177, 205 to 189. It looks like it's weird because the flights actually decreased from 2008 to 2009.